It's all starting to make sense now with new evidence being released in the Erin Patterson case, why she didn't go with certain defenses, and we're going to talk about it in today's video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup and hey.
Now hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition. So before we jump into today's video, I want to tell you about today's sponsor. Now I've worked with today's video sponsor, ZocDoc, before, and honestly, absolutely love them. Now that I'm moving to a new town, moving to a new place, all this stuff, I gotta find all the things again, right? We're talking medical, vision, dental, the whole 9 yards, right? And that in itself feels like a full-time job. Well, thankfully, ZocDoc makes it super ridiculously easy. So what is ZocDoc, you might be wondering? Well, I'm about to tell you. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right ones for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. Yeah, we're talking about in-network appointments with over 100,000 healthcare providers across nearly every specialty you can imagine, right? We're talking dentists, eye doctors, dermatologists, mental health professionals. Now you can filter for doctors who take your insurance, who are located nearby, who are a good fit for any medical need that you may have, and who are also highly rated by verified real patients. ZocDoc helps make your search for the right doctor faster, easier, by giving you the tools to compare, filter, and book appointments with in-network providers all in one place. It's super cool. You can go in, just type in a symptom, your insurance, all the things, right? And then you can just start sorting and sleuthing to find a match that's good for you. And honestly, for me, it's way easier to navigate and understand in comparison to my own insurance provider system and website. You can see their actual appointment openings. I absolutely love this part. Choose a time that works for you and click to instantly book a visit. And the other major super bonus with ZocDoc is the appointments happen fast, okay? We're talking typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. And the best part is you don't even have to talk to anyone, okay? You just book with a few clicks. Now for me, being able to go on here and have everything in one spot, I can quickly sort through, go through, it's been amazing. It was great when I was in a town, like I knew where everything was, I knew the vibe and whatnot. And so I built that trust with ZocDoc using them there. So now going to a new place where I'm not familiar with this, that, the other, you know, all the things, right? How it works in somewhere new. I have that trust built up with them, so I know they're gonna come through. So now look, Sofa Squad, if you are tired of chasing down appointments or guessing which doctors are gonna even take your insurance, skip the stress and head on over to ZocDoc.com/reportinglive. That's ZocDoc.com/reportinglive, or just click the link down in the description below to instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Big thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. Now let's go ahead and get edition. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. We got a sofa. We got a pillow. We got a Paul. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name's Paul if you're new here, and if you're not new here, well, guess what? My name's still Paul. Okay, there you go. So, anyways, we are going to be reviewing two different articles today. We are going to be continuing our discussion on the Erin Patterson case. Who is Erin Patterson, you might be asking? Erin Patterson was recently found guilty in an Australian court for inviting over her family members, killing 3 of them, and almost killing 1 of them with death cap mushrooms that she cooked into a beef Wellington. When I say her family members, they were actually her estranged husband's family members, but in her world, they were her family. So, you know, family by marriage, okay? The end result is she killed them, though, and tried to kill all 4 of them, but 1 survived. Now, she has been found guilty, like I said. I'm filming this in the middle of August, so we still are awaiting sentencing and whatnot. Now, the way the Australian court systems work is they can't, you know, talk about certain things and whatnot until certain parts of the case and the trial have taken place. Well, that has happened, and they release more and more information. And so what they've done is they've released more information about some of those pre-trial hearings and the information that came out, and specifically about all the attempted times that she tried to kill Simon, allegedly, by poisoning him. So what we're going to do is we're going to review this article, and we'll use it as a talking point to discuss the case along the way. So it says at the top here, suspicions, mystery illnesses, and a jar of vomit, what the Erin Patterson jury wasn't told. Now this is by Nino Bushi, or Buki, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and Adeshola Ore. This was on August 8th of 2025. It's August 12th today. Now, this is just also outlining what's going on here, and you'll see here a picture of Erin, and you'll see here a picture of her former husband, Simon. Now, the first screenshot I'll put up here is just the beginning of the article, and the first one up the very top, the paragraph, it says that Simon Patterson told his father, Don, and other family members that he suspected his estranged wife, Erin, had been trying to poison him before she invited his parents and his aunt and uncle to a fatal beef Wellington lunch. Now, these were heard in pre-trial hearings. And it says one argument heard in court, but that wasn't able to be revealed to the jury, involved police suspicions that she might have previously used rat poison in an alleged attempt to kill Simon. It says July 7th, Patterson was found guilty, and it just goes into all the things that we talked about. Now, at the bottom here, it says on Friday, an interim suppression order prohibiting Australian media from reporting on any evidentiary rulings made in pre-trial hearings and during the trial was lifted, and a coalition of media organizations, including Guardian Australia, successfully challenged the order. They're just telling you what I told you in the beginning. They can't release some of this stuff. They did it. They made it happen. Here we go. We're thankful for it. Now, this next screenshot up here is just outlining how there's going to be, starting August 25th, victim impact statements and whatnot. And to quote Jane Warren says, all I can say is a lot, Your Honor. There's going to be a lot of impact statements. So just know that. I do not know if they're going to televise those. I don't think they do, but obviously they'll have people reporting, like live tweeting, I call it, or whatever. Now, the next screenshot I'm putting up here is just talking about how the hearings that took place were typically involved, like the lawyers for Patterson questioning witnesses and whatnot, and their statements that they made to the police, and these were in those pre-trial hearings. Now, it just goes on here to say, that some of the evidence that did not make it to the hearings was about these separate charges, that they were going to have the different charges. So the attempted murders and then the actual, murders that took place, and the attempted murders being on Simon, those never made it to trial. They were eventually dropped. And then the second page just goes into the more details of that. You'll see it says the prosecution sought to have 3 charges of attempted murder against Erin Patterson involving Simon in 2021 and 2022, heard at the same time as 3 charges of murder and a charge of attempted murder relating to the 29th of July 2023 beef Wellington lunch. This is where Patterson, had everybody over and whatnot. And it says, but Beale ruled on March 14th, 2025 that the 2 sets of charges referred to as the Simon charges and the lunch charges would have to be heard separately. And then the DPP unsuccessfully appealed to the Court of Appeal and then decided to drop the attempted murder charges related to Simon. Now, the next thing gets into like the tea, if you will, right? It says Simon Patterson suspicions. Now, the first part of the paragraph is talking about some evidence that came out. And remember, if you've already watched my video where we break down the interrogation or the interview with the police and they talk about all the things that they got from her house, well, they found some stuff on one of the computers, some digital evidence. And it says here at the bottom of that first paragraph of a computer seized at Patterson's home relating to an article about barium carbonate, which is commonly used as rat poison. It says that she said that Professor Andrew Burston, an intensive care specialist who reviewed Simon's medical records, found that one of Simon's admissions to hospital that was suspected of being linked to Patterson was consistent with barium carbonate poisoning. Rogers qualified during the Court of Appeal hearing that this evidence had not been put to Beale in the Supreme Court pretrial hearings. Rogers told the court that Burston found no definitive cause for the illnesses affecting Simon's stomach and bowel. And again, you see a picture of Simon there. Now, the next thing just goes into more details of those 3 attempted murder charges. And it says that the only times the prosecution say that Patterson went away with Simon without their children since they separated in 2015, Rogers said, adding that police also investigated a 4th time that Simon felt unwell, but Patterson was not charged in relation to this. The prosecution sought to combine the 3 Simon charges and the July 2023 lunch as 4 events over a 20-month period where they alleged that Patterson poisoned people she prepared food for. It was not alleged that Patterson used death cap mushrooms in any of the food prepared for Simon, which Rogers told the court included pasta, curry, and wrap. Now, one thing to keep in mind that they're talking about here is this is when they would go on trips and things of this nature. And we'll get more into it here in a minute, where when he deducted with someone, the common denominator is eating food prepared by Erin that only he would eat, okay? Now, again, in the live chat channel, so shameless plug for the live chat channel, I have a podcast channel. We go live over there. I do quick case updates, stuff like that, interviews with people. It's down the thing below. So over there, we did a live stream where we talked about this case a lot, but also the police interview. Now, over there, Northwest, hey, Northwest, if you're watching, had made a comment about a theory of, she was getting back at the family, this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. So in this whole thing right here, where it's like, okay, she was able to sit here and attempt to poison Simon and it never was caught, seemingly could have given her the confidence of, well, you know what, I'm going to do this this poisoning, I didn't get caught. And they're not going to catch me. I'll just do that. They're never going to find out. I'll do this whole situation over here. Whether we knew she wanted to kill everybody to begin with, who knows? But it makes sense, right? Let's continue. So it says here at the top, Simon told pretrial hearings that after his repeated hospital admissions, extended family members said to him they were wondering if Erin had been poisoning me. Okay, this is major. He said he came to the same conclusion after meeting with his GP and being asked to prepare a summary of everything that happened immediately before he was hospitalized. And again, like I said, it continues on saying the common denominator was eating food by Erin that no one else had ate. Mandy asked Simon during a pretrial hearing in October whether he believed and continued to believe you fell ill because of food Erin prepared for you, and he said yes. She then asked Simon if he agreed with the proposition that before the end of 2022, there was nothing untoward about the relationship between you and Erin. And he says, if by nothing untoward, you mean anything that would make me think she would try and kill me, correct, Simon responded. So one of the big red flags to me is this, and this is one thing I will probably never understand about this case, is if you're in a situation with somebody, a loved one, a family member, a wife, a husband, a spouse, whatever, and you're at the point where you say, I believe this person is trying to kill me from poisoning, and there's actually evidence of it. You're getting constantly sick, you're doing the common denominators. This isn't just like it's starting to add up. And I'm not trying to victim shame him or blame him in this, but it's just literally a question. I'm curious, I would literally run for the hills. There would be no interaction. And maybe at this point he was, right? I'm kind of walking myself through this because remember, he canceled the lunch at the last minute. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And so maybe that's why she was like, oh, you're going to cancel on me? Well, guess what? I'll get what means the most to you, or whatever. Your family, right? I'll go after them too. Now the next section here says, doctor told court he thought it feasible that Erin was poisoning Simon. And then it goes on to, this pretrial hearing and this evidence. And then it talks about his GP, Dr. Christopher Ford. And he said they had a 55-minute consultation on February 21st, and Simon and he discussed the poisonings. And it says this, now keep this in mind, that Ford and the Patterson family attended the same Baptist church where Ian was the pastor, and Ford had become friends with Simon. At an earlier appointment, Ford said that he asked Simon to record the details of what happened immediately before he was admitted to the hospital. Ford said Simon reached the conclusion that Patterson was using food to poison him. So not only are these people all going to the same church and all know each other, you see how small this little world really was? So this is what makes the crime even that more grotesque and brazen. And the next thing says, I asked him to do that because I couldn't understand why these things kept on happening to him in such a way that he had essentially almost had 3 near-death experiences, Ford told the court. It didn't fit into any of my medical models that would account for all 3 of those things. There was no other reasons that could fit all the different admissions, so it seemed feasible it could be a possible reason. And then the shocking last statement, Simon had been so unwell he had to have part of his bowel removed, the court heard. Now this next page, I remember some of this coming out in other evidence, and it talks about those cookies, right? And it says here, Simon raised concerns during a consultation about cookies given to him by his daughter that were prepared by Patterson, Ford said. Simon said that Patterson called him multiple times asking if he'd eaten the cookies, and he wondered if antifreeze had been used in them to poison him. Ford told the court that Simon told him he kept a sample to test, but Ford said he could not recall finding out the sample had been tested. Ford said that Simon advised him during the consultation that given his conclusions about Patterson's, he wished to change his advanced care directives. Now let's pause for a second, a couple of things. First of all, now obviously we do not have evidence or proof that there is antifreeze or poison in those cookies, right? However, we can kind of go based off of, and these are just sofa assumptions, right? But if she's calling up talking about, did you eat the cookies, did you eat the cookies, did you eat the cookies, to where he's like, what's up with that? That the daughter gave him, so she gave the cookies to the daughter. Imagine if the daughter had eaten one. That's the part that gets me with this, and that's why I'm like, if she had gotten away with this, those kids would have been next at some point. Period. You can't convince me otherwise. Secondly, Simon was concerned about this enough to sit here and say, I want to change my advanced care directives. That's major, right? That is huge. Both of those boggle my mind. Well, the whole thing boggles my mind, right? Let's keep going. Okay, he changed the directive so his father, Don, not as a estranged wife, was listed as his medical power of attorney. I mean, thank the Lord he did, right? Soon after this, Ford told the court, he had a coded conversation with Don at church in which he believed the pair understood each other regarding the change Simon had made. Ford said in his pretrial evidence that shortly after this same service, he was standing in church with Simon when Patterson approached, confirmed an appointment appointment time with Ford for the Patterson's daughter, then turned to Simon and invited him to lunch. Now this last part, Ford said that after Patterson left, Simon said to him he will politely decline her invite. During the trial, the court heard that Simon canceled the night before the lunch, upsetting Patterson. So this is what I'm talking about. You know, it's so interesting where certain things don't get allowed in. They had put this evidence in. Oh, honey, you know that jury would have been, where's my thing? Right here. First day. Case closed, gavel down, case closed, right? Done, finished, which they probably were anyways. Okay, let's be honest. That right there, so Don knew, the doctor knew. So again, look at the timeline of things. By the time Erin goes into the hospital, or these people start coming in here, they already all knew, we were right. We went to Erin's, we ate, and now we're poisoned. Now you might be like, well, why would they have still gone? What would have this? Well, I'm getting ready to answer that through the article, so let's keep going. So the next thing says Don Patterson's jar of vomit. It says July 30th, 2023. The morning after the lunch, Ford said that Simon called him to say that Patterson's guests had fallen ill. So okay, think about this. All this conversation's going on. He's calling up. They're all sick. They went over to lunch, right? Or whatever, you know. Ford told the court he then contacted a doctor, Dr. Webster, who was treating some of the guests. Dr. Webster says that he told him he suspected they may have been deliberately poisoned. He said he then visited the hospital to tell a second doctor and saw Don and Gail Patterson there. So this is what I'm talking about. So by the time Dr. Webster sees Erin, he already knows. And he's like, he's probably like, well, let's see. Well, when Erin was talking about, oh, I didn't forge these or whatever, he knew right away. Oh my gosh, she killed these people. So immediately people are putting this all together because they were putting it together beforehand. Now about that jar of vomit, it says he said he spoke to Don, who had a jar of vomit with him, and Ford, who did not give evidence during the trial, told the pretrial hearing that he thought Don was holding on to it because it could be evidence, but it said Don did not say those exact words, right? Ford said he believed this was what was implied because of his previous conversations with Don about suspected poisoning. As best as I can remember, he held the jar of vomit up and said, I've got this sample. What do you think I should do with it, Chris? And I then replied saying, hold on to it because it could be useful later along those lines. There was implied meaning in there, but nothing more explicitly. So, and this was my understanding, was that he had specifically said that it was evidence, but you can read between the lines on this. However, I can understand why a judge would be like, oh, we can't read between the lines, right? Not for the jury or whatever to make it truly fair. At this point, I'm thinking, they're not thinking they're going to die, right? They probably don't understand or realize the severity of what has just been done to them. I mean, pure evil. Now here we get into the whole situation with the family knowing. So it says broader family made aware of Simon's suspicions. Then it says the pretrial hearings heard evidence that Simon discussed his suspicions with some family members before the lunch, but told the broader family, including the Wilkinsons' children, during a meeting at the chapel of the Austin Hospital on the 2nd of August 2023. And here we see Ian and Heather Wilkinson. And it says Ruth Dubois, the Wilkinsons' daughter, said in evidence before pretrial hearing on the 21st of August 2024 that this was when she was made aware of Simon's suspicions. Simon came to us one night and wanted to have a chat with us and our family, Dubois said. He wanted to tell us that he suspected that his ... illnesses had been a deliberate act and that he had stopped eating food that Erin had prepared. He suspected that Erin had been messing with it. He was really sorry that he hadn't told our family before this, but he thought he was the only person she was targeting and that we would be safe. She said some of her siblings, including David Wilkinson, who had walked the Pattersons down the aisle at her wedding, and Simon's siblings, were at the meeting. She told the court the next day that Simon emailed his siblings and cousins about the chapel meeting, attaching his medical records. Dubois said she did not think she had discussed his allegations with him since. Her mother, Heather, and Gail died the next day, and Don on the 5th of August. So this is the thing where, and again, I think one of the things that goes on here is, number one, you don't think somebody's going to do stuff like this to you, and at this point it was a suspicion, and he probably was like, well, she's doing this to me, I don't really have proof, I think it's what's going on, blah, 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 blah. But I stopped eating food. The fact that he stopped eating food, huge sign, right? Huge sign. So the fact that they were like going over there and weren't completely aware of this, and if I remember another conversation, and I can't remember who he had it with, so this is all, we're going to lump this under speculation, but if you remember this specifically, drop it in the comments, where someone that he talked to about this was like, don't talk about, almost like this vibe, don't be talking about Erin poison and stuff like that. Like that's going to be like, like that's gonna look bad, right? Don't be spreading that around. That's very serious. And so it might have been like a hush hush type thing of like, you know, and they might have been like, well, we're gonna go over here. She's, you know, basically, you know, bat, you know what, crazy. So we're gonna go over and have this lunch, make her feel welcome, make her feel this, whatever. That'll settle her down. You know, we, after all, these are, you know, our grandchildren, right? There's a connection there. So I can see the pipeline, but at the same note, I'm still like, oh my gosh, why were they allowed to go over there and eat this lunch, right? I mean, that it's just, I didn't know this stuff coming out, how severe this was, meaning how much suspicions were there and how much people behind the scenes were talking like, I think Erin's trying to kill him. Now to jump over to another page, let's talk about her little kitty cat. And I'm talking about a real kitty cat or a fake one, not that. Get your mind out of the gutter. So this is from Daily Mail. Okay, this is by Wayne Flower, senior news reporter from Australia. And it says the extraordinary tale of Erin's pretend cat and how she used the imaginary feline to hone her craft with deadly poisons. She was very much calculated. Now this is about a Facebook post that she did, okay? She didn't have a cat, it was pretend. She's fishing for information. It says, my cat chewed on this mushroom just now. He is having a vomit. Was in grassland near trees. I'm in Victoria, Australia, she wrote. And the prosecutor claimed that Erin made the post to obtain info on how to poison people. Back in 2020, her interest in mushrooms had nothing to do with eating or anything of that nature, she said. Her interest in mushrooms was in the poisonous properties of mushrooms, and in our submission, this post supports that inference, and it rebutes any inference that she had an interest in foraging or picking mushrooms for the purposes of eating mushrooms. The evidence was struck out as part of Justice Beale's initial pretrial rulings, but was reintroduced by Patterson's defense at the end of the trial. Now, this is going to get into why she did not go with the foraging, okay? This is exactly why she didn't. And it's, to me, legally very interesting. So it says Patterson's baristas wanted to convince the jury she had long held an interest in foraging, thus giving weight to her claims that the death cap mushrooms in her beef Wellington had been picked by mistake. Colin Mandy wanted to tell the jury his client had not simply foraged mushrooms for the deadly lunch that one time. Mr. Mandy believed a bundle of photos taken in April of 2020 suggested that Patterson had been foraging mushrooms which she cooked and ate for years. The move was strongly opposed by the prosecution. It's speculative to say that she was doing it for the purpose of eating them, Ms. Warren told Justice Beale. Your Honor, I made the point there's no evidence of preparation for cooking meals, anything like that. Some of the photographs show the mushrooms on newspaper, which, depending on how people prepare their food, one might think that's contrary to how you would treat food on newspaper. I know fish and chips used to, but it's been a long time since that happened. Ms. Warren argued if the supposed foraging images went before the jury, she should be able to include the cat post image, which had been captured around the same time. The images had been located in one of Patterson's many SD memory cards found in her home. So you see how this is panning out, and this is what all goes down in these pretrial hearings that determines how the case is going to go. And that is just this right here. So she's sitting here like, okay, well, yeah, you're going to do this, well, I'm going to do that, right? And so therefore, she couldn't use this because it was like because again, if you went down that whole pipeline and you had these other people like bringing in this evidence, it's not going to look good. So we'll get a little bit even deeper into this where it's like Erin had to change her whole defense up. So this is why she didn't go with the foraging thing. Now, also we've already seen there's other evidence like on the police interview and whatnot where she's saying she never foraged. You know, so it's like, okay, well, you're saying over here that you've never foraged, you've never done this. And I'm sure she was going to come back and be like, well, I got scared. I didn't know what to do. I threw the thing away at the tip. Oh my goodness, I love them. I love them. Yeah, the whole 9 yards that we've seen from her. The next thing we're going to look up here, it says at the top, so they're on the same device that the photographs that the impunged photographs that Mr. Mandy wants to abduce, Ms. Warren said. According to the records, are taken about 2 weeks after those other photographs. These photographs then, if Your Honor looks to the cat post, which is the single page that I have provided, these appear to be the same photographs that were put onto this Facebook post. Ms. Warren told the court Patterson had never owned a cat in her life. What I'm saying is that if my learned friends want to put in these photographs of mushrooms that were picked in April, then in re-examination, we would be seeking to put in these additional photographs from the same device. And the evidence of the Facebook post that was made at the same time as those photographs, which in our submission demonstrates that her interest in mushrooms, at least inferentially, centered around the poisonous properties of mushrooms, not around whether or not she could eat them. Now it goes on here to say, you know, how Justice Boyle had already ruled out tendency evidence, had concerns about allowing the jury to C, evidence suggesting that she had a habit of picking mushrooms. And it says, it seems to me he's suggesting that she had a tendency to pick and eat mushrooms, he said. Patterson had repeatedly lied to both police and medical professionals about foraging for mushrooms. So the thing is, and like, so this tells you a couple of things too. Obviously, we've seen how much she lied about that, okay? So I think in her world, she was probably thinking, I'm just gonna get away with this. I've gotten away with it numerous times with Simon, and I'm just gonna lie about it again here too. However, because she probably wasn't thinking they would have deduced that it was the mushrooms this quickly, okay? But now she has to make up a reason for it. So now, hindsight, most anyone that looks at this is like, girl, you needed to just right out the gate say you foraged the mushrooms. This is your clear defense. Like, there is so much evidence showing otherwise, because we know that's not the truth, right? We know that she went and got these mushrooms to kill them. That's the truth of it, okay? Not any of this other BS. But again, she didn't think it through. And again, I would say, okay, whatever. She was in a true crime group. She followed this stuff. She should know these basics. So we're gonna end all that with that. Now do some closing thoughts here. So for me, looking at this, I was like, bingo. The number one question I have is, why didn't she go with the foraging? Why didn't she? Well, we just answered all that, right? The haunting thing is thinking that someone could do this to people and sit there and have a luncheon with them, talk to them about this and that, claim this and that you love them and they're your family and you and your grandkids, grandparents, knowing full well the devastation they were going to be going through. Now, whether she did this because Simon backed out, because clearly he knew, he says he did. He was like, yeah, I thought she was only targeting me. Again, hindsight, I'm kind of like, the fact that they went over and ate her food is wild. Now, I don't know if it sounds like everyone at the table knew. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, right, wrong, indifferent, whatever, it's done now, right? Lives have been lost, lives have been destroyed. Look at her kids, right? This is their mother. This is what she did. All the while, like, oh, I want my kids' grandparents. I want this and that. I love them. Really? Okay. So once again, it is very clear with the evidence that was all out there, you know, and before getting sifted through the legal stuff, you know, the judge and these people had to be like, she is so obviously guilty, okay? So painfully guilty. All the evidence is there. They did a very amazing job at being like, we're keeping this one close. We're not letting this info out. And we're going to make sure the jury only sees certain things. And for the jury to even see the watered down version of this and still be like, yeah, girl, guilty. Right? I think they're going to give her the maximum. I hope they do. We can now see this was a calculated, cold killing. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Dying to hear if you are on the same page. Like, that's why she couldn't use that as a defense. Like, that was the most obvious thing to go for. And it was like, no, we're going to railroad her. She does. We're going to show all this other stuff. And all the evidence says her, even out of her own mouth, that she didn't do it. So I want to know. Drop it off down there. While you're down there, maybe drop some of these little weird blue pillows off or something like that. I don't know. I mean, just if you feel like it. But definitely some stuff for little Rosco in spirit. Bo and Luke and you, the Sofa Squad, who makes the channel possible. I greatly appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. And I appreciate hanging out in the comment sections on the little sofas that you're dropping off for us to have a place to sit, hang out, and talk, and do all that fun stuff. And until we do gather down there to do that, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.